If your base in Palworld feels like a chaotic mess, don't worry, you're not alone. I'm Vadd, and this is a simple, clear guide to base building that actually works. It's going to save you a ton of time and frustration. I'm going to walk you through everything you actually need to know to how to make a base that runs smooth and makes your life easier without wasting resources or overthinking things. Every single base in Palworld starts with the Pal box. This is the most important structure and is what makes a base a base. This is a fast travel point and a storage location as well. I think there are three main types of bases in Palworld. The first type of base I call an exploration base. These are Pal boxes you put down, but you're not really going to build out. This base I'm at right here is an exploration base. I'm going to open up the map and show you why. Before I do that, I want you to be aware that there might be some spoilers on things on the map when I open it, because maybe I've explored something you haven't. I'm here by this Anubis. I don't have a way to get here easily. The closest fast travel point is all the way over here to the left, or I can go all the way across the water here to the right. These aren't very close by. If I want to fight this Anubis consistently, I need to have a way to get here. And I used the Pal box to build an exploration base. I picked this location here for two reasons. One, we are actually up on a little bit of a cliff. You can see as we fall off here, it's a little bit tough to get up here. I'm not going to be defending this place from a raid, but a raid is going to have a really tough time getting up to me because I'm up the cliff. The second reason I picked this location is because it has this coal. This is a resource that I needed at the time of building. When you're thinking about where to place down your exploration bases, think about the resources around you and the geography you're on. This is another location that's very remote and hard to get to. There's just not a lot of spawn points anywhere near us. You can see we're pretty isolated here on this island. If I open up the map, closest fast travel point is way over here at the plateau beginning, and I am super far south here. But on this island here, there's lots of good and fun things that spawn in. So I built a Pal box. This is an exploration base. I picked this location for the box for two reasons. First reason is there's a free chest that spawns in here. That's always nice. I'm actually up on a little cliff again. I'm going to fall off the cliff here. You can see there's actually quite a distance up this cliff. Everything spawns down where I'm walking around right now. Or they spawn a little further down there. I want you to be thinking about that when you're thinking about if you're going to place down a Pal box for exploring. Think about where you put the box, not because of the resources, but the geography of the placement and what spawns around you. You might not get it right every time, but with time and practice, you're going to get better at figuring out what makes a good exploration base location. For me, it's an isolated location that has spawns I'm trying to farm. The second type of base you're going to build in Palworld is going to be the resource base. This is not your main base, but it's got a resource you want. For example, this ore right here in front of us. This is an important resource early on. This is a base you're going to build several times and take apart several times as you unlock new resources that you need. This looks like a pretty good spot to build a base. We're going to build one here together so you can see just how easy and simple this can be. All bases start with the Pal box. We'll place this down first. Before we finish the build, while it's still just a little ghost, we're going to look around at the circle. I can see here that blue line shows that we didn't quite get this rock in the base. I want to make sure it's fully in the base. Let's move our Pal box before we commit too far. We've canceled the build. We're going to rebuild it. We'll just take a few steps back. Okay, let's see how we did. Did we get all these ore rocks in the base? Here's our blue line. We can clearly see all the ore rocks are inside that blue line. Everything inside the line, our pals are going to be able to harvest. This is perfect. I'm happy with this. First thing we're going to build is a feed box. After the feed box, we're going to build a berry plantation. These are the two structures going to make sure the pals working at this base have food. The berry plantation here needs planting, watering, gathering, and transporting. There are lots of pals that can do all of these skills. Let's look what I've caught. Look, I have this little tansy. It can plant, it can gather, and it can transport. This is all the things I need. You might not have this little guy, but you might have something similar. Look, here's a lift monk. This guy can plant, gather, but it can't transport. That's okay. We can work around that. Pay attention to the work suitability of who you put in the base. Since Tansy can plant, gather, and transport, we only need watering. I've got a celery. Celery is a great pickup as well. It has watering and transporting, two things that would really help us out. This base is officially self-sustaining for food, but it still needs a few more things. We need to make sure we build some beds. You build whatever bed you have. I'm going to build 4. That's going to be one more than we need, which should be plenty. This base has beds, and a berry plantation, and a berry box. We now need somebody to actually mine the rocks. You can see a Cativa has mining level 1 and transporting and gathering. This would be a great pick. I don't have another Cativa. This one's busy right now. But I do have an extra Incineram hanging out. This Incineram has the mining that we need. The space is almost done. We need to build a storage box. It's important to understand the Pal box here You can see there's a blue orb on the front. The blue PAL sphere here on the right, that is the front side of the PAL box. Here on the left, that is the back side of the PAL box. We want to build our first chest as close to the back side of the PAL box as we can. So we're going to start the build and walk backwards. Once the icon turns green, we'll build. That'll be good enough. The reason we build here is because when you fast travel between bases, you're going to fast travel at your PAL box, and it's going to fast travel you and deliver you on the back side of the PAL box. Okay? So if you're over encumbered with stuff, you can go into your inventory. I can take all these logs and drop them. Then I can take a step forward to the PAL box here. And I can pick up the wood. I can turn my camera. And then I can deliver the wood into the PAL box here. It's important to have this storage box here behind your PAL box so that you can manage your inventory if you're over encumbered. At level 40, you unlock the guild chest. I think this is a better structure to build at your resource bases. You're not going to have this right away, but it's worth building. The guild chest is a shared storage location between all of your bases. So if you build a guild chest here at your resource base and a second guild chest at your home base, whatever resources you put in either box individually go to a shared storage location that both boxes can access. That means if you build just the guild box at your resource bases, you won't need to continually travel back and forth to these bases because the guild chest has a shared inventory. This is a great structure as you progress through Palworld to build at your bases to manage your resource base storage needs. Congratulations, you now have the fundamentals of a resource base. As you journey on through Palworld, you're going to build these bases a couple of times and take them apart as you unlock new resources you want to go and get. The fundamentals of a resource base do not change. You want to go find the resource you need. You want to make sure the base has some food coming in, a place to sleep, and some storage, and a way to harvest that resource. These are the absolute minimum needs of a resource base. Over time, this will look different as you need different resources, but the fundamentals are still there. At this base, I needed some oil. You can see I have all the same structures we built earlier. I have a couple of beds for my pals to be able to sleep in. I have a very simple berry box and berry farm for them to eat. Oil requires these oil pumps, which need electricity, which need pals with electrical generation. And all of this needs to be stored somewhere, so I built these big storage bins. The biggest difference with this resource base is that it really drains the sanity of the pals, the SAN, the sanity, working on this energy generation. One thing I did to help manage that was build these saunas. There are 3 tiers of hot springs you can build to help manage the sanity. The earliest one's unlocked at level 9. And later on, you can get more advanced structures. One other small change at this base is I built the monitoring stand. This is because I want my 2 pals to focus on electricity generation instead of transporting the goods. I'd rather let my other 2 pals here transport the goods. As you progress through Palworld, you're going to continue to build these resource bases as needed, and they're going to all look about the same. They might get a little more tricky to build, but the fundamentals here are going to stay the same. As you journey through Palworld, there's going to be a third type of base. It's going to be your main base, your headquarters, your core base, that home base where you do everything from. I've made this monstrosity that I've kind of outgrown. Everything's a little bit of a mess, and this just naturally happens over time. One of the reasons for this is that oftentimes the new structures are a little bit larger than some of the old structures. Also, we catch new pals and we find new friends that are a little better at a job, or maybe they path a little bit differently, or they're just larger and they don't quite fit the same way that everything else does. What I have here actually works and does everything. It just doesn't do anything very well, and we can do this so much better. I have outgrown this location. An easy example is the furnaces. This brick furnace here is one of the first ones we unlock. The next furnace we unlock is this electrical furnace. It's quite a bit larger. And further up the furnace tier, we all of a sudden have this monstrosity of a furnace, this big circular, 4 pal furnace. It's just a monster to put down. It simply does not take up the same amount of space as our brick furnace. There's lots of crafting buildings that behave just like these furnaces. They just change shape and get larger over time. We could kind of squeeze this second tier one into our first tier furnace slot. But once we get into this third tier furnace, it's just too big. This was a really good location for my first home base. Even with the limited space, I was able to build vertically. This let me have an entire second level dedicated to some of these larger structures. I know we can do better than this. It's time to move our home base to a new location. I think the most important thing for your home base is that it's nice, flat, and open. And there's one main reason for this. In the tech tree, you can see we can unlock a coal mine, a sulfur mine, and a quartz mine. We can also unlock a logging site and the ore mine. This means that we can build resource bases to get some of the more tricky and highly specialized resources, and we can build those mining sites to have some resources coming in our home base as well. This makes the most important location long-term just to be as flat and open as possible. There's lots of good locations for this on the map. This is one really strong location for a home base. There's lots of open space. There's a little bit of an incline here, but we can build around that. It's not a big deal, especially when we have this much just wide open space here for us to build in. If I open up the map, you can see in the lower left corner, there's going to be coordinates negative, that's a minus sign, 483, comma, negative 86. That is the map location for this base. I'm going to show you it on the map again. I'm going to leave it up for a moment so you can get a good look at where this is. Here's another wide open flat space that might be fun to build. We could build a really cool base here. I'm going to show you where this is on the map. This is a third really nice spot to build. It's nice, it's flat, it's open, it's a little different from the other two. I like this one as well. On the map, there are lots of really, really great base locations to build. The more you explore, the more you're going to find places that you think might be fun to build your base. For your home base, I think the most important thing is the aesthetic, how it looks, and the view. This base has a great view. Look, we can see the world tree from here. I love that. I'm going to build my base here. I think there's lots of open space, and I actually think there might just be enough space. I can maybe build a double base. I'm going to show you all the steps on how to do that. You might not have all the same buildings I have unlocked just yet, but the building I'm going to make here is something that you're absolutely going to be able to make yourself, and you don't have to build in this exact same location. Find a spot you think is lots of fun and build wherever you like. What I'm doing here is a little bit of an extra step you just don't have to do, but I'm going to show it to you anyway so that you know how to do it if you want to. The first thing you do is you throw down your PAL box, but since I know I want to build two bases here together, I first started off by picking a line that I like. I like this line of rocks right here. I thought this was just a good line. I said, you know, I can build around these rocks. These rocks are going to define one edge of my base. So the first thing I did was I lined up this first line of foundations down the rocks. This is going to make a nice clean line for where the edge of my base is going to be. The next thing I did was I threw down a PAL box. You can see the blue line of the PAL box coming across the rocks right now, going forward and going backwards. So I could use that blue line to figure out how close I was to the PAL box, just there on the edge. I know it's really hard to see, but I'm just on the edge of that foundation line right now. Before I built it out, I then would go back. It's easier with the flyer. And I could see, look, I'm just here on the edge of this with the blue line. Do I like this positioning? Okay. Then I could say, well, can I fit a second base in here? Am I happy with getting a second PAL box down in this corner here? It looks a little too tight right now, so I don't think so. But I used just one good baseline, and I built a foundation straight down this edge. And once I'm happy with the distance I am on this first line I made here, then I can make a second line perpendicular, right? And I wasn't happy with where this first line was, but I can use these foundation lines to get my first PAL box down the way I want it. If you're just building one base or you're not that particular, you just don't need to do this. But I'm using the foundations to line up my base. Once I find a line I think I like, I go ahead and build one 3x3 section of foundations. I'm not going to be able to change these later without moving the entire PAL box. Maybe in a future update they'll change that. I'm really happy with my first box placement. You don't need to do any of those steps to get it lined up. You can just throw it down in a space that you think you like. Don't overthink it. I'm just being picky. This is going to be a double base, which means we're going to build two PAL boxes in one big area. I want to make sure they're kind of lined up. So I'm just going to build a straight line of foundations. Once I built my straight line of foundations, I'll just walk this base back. You can see I can build it here, no problem. As we get closer, we're going to get a different message. Still no problem. Still no problem. Too close to another base. Okay, this is the limit right there. That's the foundation that's the limit. So we'll need to build it a little bit back here. Let's just look how this looks at a glance. Right now, this is what we have going for us. We have one PAL box, which placement we're pretty happy with. We have a second PAL box, which we're about to get finalized. This is going to be where we're going to build our home base, our main base, our core base. By picking a spot with enough room for two PAL boxes, we can focus one base on maybe ranches and breeding and farming, and a second base on production. We won't have to fast travel between them. We can just walk. I've walled everything off, and I made just a little cross section of foundation, so I have some idea of what section I'm building in. Again, you can just place down your PAL box and start building. You absolutely do not need to build this entire wall of any kind or put down these foundations. You can just start building the structures. I'm going to use these foundations because they're going to help me kind of eyeball where I am in my build. I'm going to use this base here on the left as a dedicated breeding and ranching base. I'm going to put down the ranches and some breeding factories and maybe some growing stuff. I haven't quite decided where I want to grow my food in the plantations. I'm going to use this side as a dedicated crafting zone. I may want to make it part of the food zone, but I know that for sure that I want to craft on this right base. And on the left base, I'm going to be using the ranches and the breeding. That's what my current plan is. We'll see how things unfold. Something I think is really important to remember is we're limited by our space. And one of the best things we can do is to build vertically. So we're definitely going to build some layers up. When you're building up, you always have at least two choices. You can use the stairs or you can use the slanted roof. A lot of the times I go with the slanted roof. It's a little bit overkill, but I like to build my upstairs. When I build stairs up, I like to build them 3 wide and 3 tall. You really don't need to do this. You could go with something much smaller, but this I've had a lot of success with and I like it. This is part of why I built this little triangle coming from the center of the PAL box, because now I know my line is 1, 2, 3, and this 4th foundation is where I need the support. Again, it's a little bit overkill here. It's overbuilt, but I like to have a full 3 squares for my turn. This means if there's a full 3 spaces coming up, I like to have a full 3 spaces to turn my corners. Because I know I'm going to build this second level up. On this ground level, I need to make sure I have foundations with no more than a 2 space gap between them. I could go 3 space, but I like to go 2. This is a quick view of the ground level, but just the base foundations. And then we're at with the second level. We don't have to stop there. We can have a ground level, a first level, and we can build right up into a 3rd level. Because we're limited in our space from side to side, we can always go a little more vertical. This is a good option to increase the space you have in your base. We can build ceilings all the way across here. And we can build up a 3rd level, a 4th, a 5th. We can keep going up. I'm not going to show you every single step of this build, but I want you to be thinking about building vertically over time. To recap once, everything has to be built on a foundation. When you're building away from foundations, you can build 2 tiles away. See, here's 1 tile. Here's the 2nd tile. We cannot go 3 tiles away from the foundation. It's not going to let us. There's not enough support. That's how we knew we could build 1, 2 tiles, and then our foundation when we were laying that ceiling. Everything has to have a foundation within 2 tiles of it. 2 tiles away, not 3. This also means this one foundation here, if it crumbles, that entire ceiling will fall. But not these 2 ceilings, because they are 2 tiles away from this wood foundation. But they're all being held up by this wall. What happens if we take away the foundation the wall's on? Well, it's on 2 foundations. What about this one here? They all fall. Understanding just how far away you are from your foundations is going to let you build in peace and ease. Because we're limited by our space from side to side, we're instead building vertically. This formation is just really, really basic and simple and leaves us room to expand further if we need to. But this is actually a lot of space. If you've been building flat on the ground this whole time, you've quite literally tripled the amount of buildable space you now have in one location. And remember, this is a double base build. So we have 1 PAL box here in this little tower, and we have another PAL box over here in this yet to be built location. The scariest part about this tower build currently is the entire thing is being held up by this 1, 2, 3 up ramp slopes. If those 3 ramp slopes go down, this entire structure completely crumbles. There's ways we could support it more, but we don't really need to. I made this first layer just 3 wide. These are 3 tiles wide inside the base, or just 3 tiles wide. The reason I did that is simple. It's just enough space to build the ranch, where the back edge is just inside our base here, and there's room to walk along this front edge here. If you're having trouble placing a ranch in a 3 tile space, give yourself more room to work. I'll build out 2 more tiles here, and then I'll just comfortably walk my ranch forward till it can't fit, and I'll back up a little bit. And now it fits just fine because I had 2 more tiles to work with here to walk on. I don't need these tiles. They can go. We could line this entire roof edge with ranches, and maybe we will. This top floor is all the way filled in. I'm going to put a breeding farm up here. The breeding farm is a lot larger than the ranch. There's plenty of room. I'm not being super efficient with my space, but I've got plenty of space to be a little bit wasteful with. If I was really focused on only breeding, I would fill in this section of the ceiling here, so I had a few more tiles to build on, and I could do this whole second level with the breeding farms, as well as this first level. Remember, in your world select, you can change your world settings. Then you can go in the custom settings. And in here, there's two key settings to remember. You can change the maximum number of worker pals at a base, and you can change the maximum number of bases for each guild. The other setting you want to know about is the structure deterioration rate. These are three very important settings. Any structure built outside the blue circle of your base can and will deteriorate if that setting isn't set to 0. So this wall I just built here will completely disappear if the structure deterioration is turned on. You need to have some idea of your world settings before you start building outside of your base. Otherwise, what you're building might just disintegrate, disappear, and be gone forever. I think realistically, you never need more than 3 ranches at most, and you can probably get away with just 1. I think 2 is the most comfortable. How many ranches you have is going to be decided by how many pals you have in your base limits. If you're only allowed 15 pals in your base, you probably have a dedicated ranch base or just 1 ranch in your base. Mine is set to the current maximum of 50. That's 50 pals, half of 100. I can afford to have a lot of specialty ranches moving me forward. Knowing your world settings is going to change how you build your base. The most important lesson here is not just about building vertically and understanding what you can build, but also understanding what pals you're planning to put in your base. I don't really like to do a lot of breeding, so 2 or 3 of these farms is going to be more than enough for me. But I've got plenty of room to expand if I change my mind or start a new project. I really like the ranches. I think they're lots of fun. I love going out and catching pals and letting them come back to my base and harvest stuff for me. But there's a pretty limited number of pals that actually harvest things. And a lot of the things they harvest, you don't really need too many of most of the time. I think one of the most important buildings in your base is unlocked at level 40, which is the guild chest. This chest is a storage unit that is shared the same storage space between all your bases. This means when I'm building this new base and I'm trying to move bases, as soon as I can put down this guild chest, I can access my resources at my previous base. I divided this base into 4 corners. Let's use this top right corner for mining. First thing I'll place is this logging site. Then I still have room for my stone pit. But before I place this stone pit, it's better to place down a chest a little bit between them. You can see I'll just line up the chest right here. Let's put down our stone pit next. It doesn't need to be perfect. The important thing to know here is that if somebody's here lumbering or someone's here in the stone pit harvesting stone, they won't actually run all the way back to our guild chest because there's a closer chest right next to them. I'll often build a chest right by these 2 locations just so that I know where to go look for my stone or my wood. We'll place down an ore mining site and then our coal mining site. Next, we'll put down the sulfur mining site. I'm actually going to remove the logging site. I changed my mind. And instead, I'm going to put down the quartz mine. I know you're not going to have all these sites unlocked right at the start, but I want you to know that they exist and they're things that over time you're going to be able to build, and they fit in just 1 corner of the base. No problem. One change we can make here to manage the resources is get rid of all the storage boxes. It would force all of our transportation pals to take all these resources all the way over to the guild box, which might be better. Or we could place just 1 centralized box that I know is going to be a little closer than the guild box. To save on transporting, and that way I don't have to run around and check 1 box, 2nd box, and a 3rd box for whatever resource I need. I would know that this is the closest box to these resources, and this is where they should be. Structures I like to have towards the center of the base are storage boxes and anything that improves sanity or the workers might take a break. This means the feed box is going to be towards the center of the base, as are the hot springs. The feed box and the hot springs are both tools we can use to improve our workers' sanity as well as their production, and I want them towards the center of the base so that it's a shorter distance for workers to work. If I put them around the edge of my base, the workers are going to have to go super duper far. It's better for the pals to have less distance between the spaces they're taking a break and the spaces they're actively working in. Okay, this first quarter of our base here is all of the harvesting buildings for the mining and the wood cutting. Let's use this second quarter here for planting. I'll place wheat first. Next, I'll do tomatoes, potatoes, lettuce, carrots, onions, and of course berries. It's kind of impressive once you see all of them actually just nicely placed together and how much of space they take up in the base actually is for all the plantations. Yes, there's a few more we could place down, but these are the core ones we need for most things. And this is probably overkill. A lot of the times I get away with just berries and wheat. There's also the skill fruit orchard, but I don't tend to mess with this very much. Maybe later on more of these growing plots will be added, but as you can see, there's plenty of room to fill this in. We have farming in one corner of our base. We have some material mining and logging in the next corner. Let's turn this next corner into the production. You're not going to have this building right away, but eventually you will unlock the production assembly line number 2 and an advanced assembly line further on. They're very large structures. There's also the always important sphere assembly line number 2. And who could forget our weapon assembly line? You're going to have these same production buildings in different forms for producing your weapons, your spheres, and your general production tasks. I want you to see here that even at their largest size, there's just plenty of room to fit them into a 1-level base. I'm not going to finish this entire build here in this video, but I want you to see just how much space we actually have to work with inside of even just a 1-level base. There's plenty of room to build even some of the largest structures. I know we haven't built every single structure in here, but I really want you to see that you can absolutely just have one main base that just has one open, flat, singular level. This is definitely something that's doable. That can fit even the largest of crafting tables and of mining plots. Totally doable. I want you to recognize that and understand that. In addition, you can also build something quite a bit vertical. It gives you even more options for even more space. Just across the lane here, we built just a very basic, very simple tower that has so much room for us to be successful in whatever we want to build. By picking just a ginormous open flat stretch and building 2 bases like this, one of the nice things is we can have just ranches and breeding farms on our tower over here. And then we can really focus on having some crafting or some minerals and some farming in this other section here and really separate our pals and manage them better. Over time, Palworld adds in new stuff. It's still an early access game. You can see here that they added in a new resource, this hexalite quartz, and there's actually... You can only really see them at night, but you can pick them up during the day. There are some star sand. There is some star sand that I guess my guys already picked it all up, but there's star sand that actually happens to spawn right at this location here. I'll show you where this is on the map in case you want to build here. I'm not saying it's the best spot in the world. It's just when they added something new and I needed that resource, I just went ahead and set up a little resource base. I didn't have to move my main base. I just worked with the new stuff to get what I needed. You now have the tools to do this. This man is just disrespecting my wall. I had a really hard time actually with this location. It's part of why I had a really hard time with this location. I couldn't quite close off the water the way I wanted to, so I just walled this off. I'm definitely not super duper recommending this spot. It just happened to be what I found that worked for me because it had the star sand and the hexo crystals or whatever. But I'm just not super thrilled with it. But the point I'm trying to make here is that as they added new stuff moving closer to the full launch, you can just go build a resource base to get what you need, and you have plenty of room to expand your main base. I mean this in the absolute best possible way. I believe in you. You can do it. Palworld is not designed to be difficult. It's designed to be fun and engaging. It's not here to reinvent the wheel and force you to design new solutions to new problems. Pick a flat open space, throw down your pal box, and start building. I hope seeing this tower start the form, and I hope seeing just the amount of space we actually used here in this flat base and how much is completely left over and wide open. I hope it gives you some ideas for how you might build your next base or how you might pick your next base location. Knowing that you can and probably should go vertical, I think really does change the way that I thought about base building. And being able just to see that, okay, here are some of the largest of crafting tables here, and they actually fit just fine, no problem. Yes, I know. Everyone that noticed that there's a very faint blue line here with this little box outside of it. It said it was inside the base when I placed it down. It actually gave me a lot of free range on that structure. There's definitely room in here to build more, and it's inside the base. We do need to put down electricity, but genuinely, there's just plenty of room for that. I might tear up these foundations and place beds just in kind of the exact pattern they're in throughout the base. That's kind of a fun idea. I might turn this corner into a cooking corner. I might turn this corner into the big kind of cooking corner, condensing corner. You never know. There's just room to do good things. I have one more fun base location I do want to show you. I think this is one of the coolest base spots in all of Palworld to date. It's this one singular island. And it looks like you're about to just go into just an absolute jungle here, right? As we make our way into the jungle. It's like a little hidden lagoon. Look at this place. It's just gorgeous. I mean, look. Someone really cared about designing this place. It has this giant shell. This wonderful little miniature world tree. There's this water feature you could build around. These lily pads with the flowers. I think this is such a gorgeous, gorgeous base design. And since you know you can go vertical, you can definitely build something special here. One of the reasons this location is really good is you might have noticed when we were placing down our mining facilities, there isn't a mining structure for oil. You need to go find oil nodes eventually, and you're going to have to place down the oil structures here to harvest them. But this location already has the oil nodes on it. A lot of the oil nodes are somewhere that I don't really want to build a base. It's kind of like a lava zone or a desert zone. But this spot is just so gorgeous. I mean, I think this is you could really make a special base here. I think this is a really cool location to build a base. I'm of course going to show you the map coordinates for it and the map view of it as well. It's pretty far away. But you can see it's right here on the map, just kind of in this top right corner. If you like this video, click like. YouTube channel members and the Patreon to support what I do. I'm Vadd, and I will see you in the next one.